Okay, so models are getting really good. And for more and more work, the bottleneck is no longer the model intelligence. The bottleneck is humans giving the models the tools and the context and the increasingly ambitious tasks and objectives to go flex their potential. So at Cursor, we've been working on removing that bottleneck. And I'm going to share a bit about how we've been doing that. And hopefully it's helpful to some of you in your work. With models, it's good. We kind of see the job that we have as setting our agents free safely and having them go off and work on bigger tasks. So we've kind of gone through 3 stages of the process. The first was giving our agents the tools and the context to be more autonomous. The second is we had to learn how to take advantage of these more capable models. And there's actually a lot of work in figuring out how to update your sort of patterns and behaviors. And as you do that, as you're leveraging more agents and getting more work done, you start to see the places where there's stress and strains and where the agents fall over, and you work to improve that. And that brings you to the third stage, which is building the system that builds the system. So instead of spending your day hand-holding agents from task A to D, you take that time to build the system that can solve for A to Z. So we started thinking about how to make our agents more capable, how to make them work more like we do. We started with looking at what we do with humans to onboard people to Cursor. So when a developer joins Cursor, they get a computer. We help them set up their dev environment. We have a ton of documentation, maybe too much, about how to do all the different things that developers need to do in their daily work. So we give them all this context and all this material, and crucially their computer. If you imagine, think about what we were doing with the models, we were kind of just like throwing the onboarding experience was you throw them into a code base, and from the model's perspective, you have thousands of lines of code whizzing by. You don't know like what you're doing. You just have some task you have to go solve. And it's kind of incredible that this works as well as it does. I know if I had to work this way and I was just sight reading code and I couldn't test the application, I would also probably frustrate and annoy the humans who did have to do the testing for me. So we decided to build an onboarding agent. And we built a Claude onboarding agent. Anybody can go to cursor.com/onboard. You can set up your repo. And the Claude onboarding agent gets to work. And it starts exploring your code base, not to make a change, but to figure out how to run it. And this is a little bit of how it goes. So it's exploring, it's looking around, and depending on how fast this one's playing, you'll see it can start using the app, and it will come back with a demo. And it's not just looking to figure out what to run, what the services are, but there are sort of these complex things it needs to do, like figure out their different environment variables, what permissions does it need. So it's this interactive process with the developer to make sure the services are running properly. So once we have the agents onboarded, we realize there's still quite a bit of work to do, because you have all these developers running many cloud agents every day. So any problems are multiplied out across all those runs. And so every time the agents run, they have to start their dev environment from scratch. When you're doing local dev, you probably leave things running. Not true for the cloud agents. So we wanted to optimize their DevX. They were spending a lot of time sleeping, waiting for things to start up. They didn't have good ways of waiting for things, so we built an AnyDev CLI tool. So they were able to start services, wait for the services to start, check on statuses. They had sort of a Swiss Army knife for things like creating test accounts and signing in for services, third-party services, things like that. So what we saw was, as we made the dev environments better, more developers started running more cloud agents and getting more out of it. So there's sort of a positive feedback loop that starts to take place. And then, of course, we also had to give them all the sort of documentation that we give our human developers. So we made sort of simplified versions of this so they could get, when they find themselves in sort of these edge cases or hard problems, they have the materials there to lean on. So in doing this process, we sort of derived these kind of basic principles of autonomy. The first is you have to give your agents eyes. So everything that you can see, the agents need to be able to see too. Basic version of this is if the agent's running an app, you should be able to see that app. If you go and make changes and you use that app yourself and change something in the state, the agent needs to be able to see what you changed. Another sort of interesting one is that we found is the agent chats, where you wind up needing to debug what happened in a chat, and you want the agent to be able to see the other agent's chat just like you do. The next thing is giving the agents tools so that they can do all the things that you can do with sort of reasonable security constraints. This is like, basic one, really important one is they should be able to run the applications that you can run, and they should be able to use the services that you can run. Agents are autoregressive, so it is also very important that you have a sort of high-quality code base and instructions and everything else so that you get high quality in, high quality out. The foundational primitive, we believe, for human autonomy is computer use. So the first domain where agents have really excelled has been coding, and we think computer use is the next really important domain. And this is raw pixels in, mouse and keyboard out. And the Claude family of models are really good at this. And this is not, the hard part of this is not clicking in the right place. The hard part is sort of better explained as like if coding is like chess, where you can see all the pieces out on the board, navigating these GUIs is more like a video game, where you can only see a little slice at a time. There are one-way doors. There are game over states that you can get into. And so you need this sort of higher level metacognition and backtracking and this sort of general intelligence skills that the Claude family is really good at. So Claude 4.7 is our computer use model. Here's an example. It was told to go off and build this private marketplace feature. So it goes off and records this demo where it's implemented all the little pieces. We have like this URL input, and there's CSVs it needs to add. And what's great is that it's not just using that to do its own end-to-end testing to make sure that the changes that it made works. You, as the developer, get to have a really high bandwidth method of reviewing the work of the agent before you get into code. And this becomes really, really valuable when you are running many of these agents simultaneously in the cloud and bouncing between them. So that's the next thing is once you have these autonomous agents onboarded, you need to learn to give them more work and give them bigger challenges to go tackle. Two sort of basic modes. The first is you have like a lot of tasks and a lot of bugs and issues, and you kind of have to learn when to just like stop putting those in your notes or stop putting them in your issue tracker and just kick off prompts. Put them right into a prompt box and kick them off. And when you do, you then have a bunch more of these agents running, and again, it's great to be able to have those demos that come back instead of having to review lots and lots of code. And the sort of second pattern is much bigger projects where you can give a cloud agent, an autonomous agent, much larger units of work and have it work for much longer. One of the things that we were surprised by, we kind of knew that if we made the agents more powerful, developers would do more exciting things. And we were sort of surprised by the extent to which this was true. And one of the sort of really important things was the security that the cloud provided for developers. There's sort of this idea of like security through freedom, which sounds like Orwellian propaganda, but in the same way that you're sort of setting your agents free to go take things on in the cloud on their own, you also sort of set yourself free as a developer, where you don't have to worry as much about resource management and context switching. You don't have to worry about the agents going and doing things that they really should not with your environment variables. And there's a way in which we were all surprised by how much more enjoyable this made programming. Really, really important skill that we are still working on learning. When the agents fail, it's really worth it to take time out to figure out what went wrong, debug it, and implement a fix that's, again, going to be sort of multiplied out across your whole team and your company. It's the same sort of dynamic where, so failure modes, if they persist, make the agents sort of continually compounding failure across the entire company. And people don't want to use the agents as much, and they don't lean on them as much. But the inverse is also true. When you invest in them and you make them work better, everybody wants to use them more. People are building trust with the agents. They're finding that they can sort of one-shot bigger and bigger tasks, and then they want to invest more in it. So this is a really important change in how you think about your work, where you're kind of programming the system. And so you've onboarded your agents. We gave them the tools to make them really powerful. We started learning how to leverage them and scale them up, and we were seeing where they fell over. We started working on this sort of loop of how you teach them to work better. And we realized that it does start to feel like coding again. So of course, we thought well, the agents should do this. We've got a few ways that we're trying to have the agents do this. This is sort of the most important one, and the one I'm going to talk about today, is agents iteratively improving their own workflows. And so we call this the agent experience. There's the developer experience. So you have the agent experience, and you need to care just as much, if not more, about the agent experience. The way that our system works is agents go about their business, and they are told to report issues as they come up. It's really just like what we do with the pattern I was just describing for humans, where if you see something wrong, say something, report it, and try to work on a fix. All those reports are accumulated in a system of record. It's really, again, very similar to how human systems work. Managers will go in and review all the issues and categorize them and dedupe them and bucket them into their issues that can be sort of their technical problems that can be addressed. Then there are issues of permission, where the agents just don't have access to something, so they need to get permission. There are issues of ignorance, where the agents need, they don't know what to do, and they need the humans to come in and tell them what the right way to solve the problem is. So then, in the last step, of course, these are then fixed by both agents and humans. And the goal is to, over time, have less and less human involvement, so we can have those issues that the agents solve are solved end to end. We don't really need to review. We can have really high trust in their work, and they have all the context that they need, and they don't need anything else from us. So I'm going to go into a couple examples. So this is our most important skill. It's the WCF skill, which of course stands for work on the factory. And you can see it's like every cloud agent gets this skill, and it's almost the exact same prompt that I was just showing in the previous slide. Work on the factory is the idea that when something is annoying, broken, or confusing, you take a moment to report it, so we can improve the tools and workflows rather than just grinding through. Models a while ago would not have been doing a very good job of this, but today they get annoyed and they find things broken and they get confused and they realize that and they report it. So we get this system of record where they go and report all those issues. Of course, you then have to solve the issues, and this is its own really important challenge if you want this whole system to be sort of self-improving. And so we were finding with these agent development experience problems, having the agent just go solve them and try to one-shot was not that effective, because there's a lot of flake in those problems. So something only happens once in a while. And so we taught it to actually have the cloud agent that goes and solves it, kick off a bunch more cloud agents with the change in the development experience, and make sure that across that sort of eval set that there's a robust solution. And so then when the solution, the PR comes back to the humans to review, there's a high degree of trust that actually this is a well-validated solution. This is slightly premature. Yeah, so I think that those are both really good examples of where of how these sort of skills can work as sort of background garbage collection processes or cleanup processes in the operating system. And we think that while these are sort of clearly applied for the coding domain, in the same way we sort of speed run a lot of AI development in coding, these patterns are going to generalize well outside of coding and to other domains. And even if you think about it already, cloud development experience, that's not really a coding problem. There are a lot of variables in that, and very few of them really are just sort of coding issues. OK, so now the thank you slide. If you'd like to talk more about self-improving agentic systems, please talk to me. You can find me on X at my name. And if you'd like to set your agents free, you can go to cursor.com/onboard and have Claude onboard to your code base and maybe ship your next ambitious feature. So thank you very much.